So one of the first questions to ask yourself when you're struggling with not feeling motivated is, am I regulated? Do I have regulation in my nervous system? Or am I experiencing anxiety, which is like this survival energy, this fight or flight energy? Or am I feeling some level of freeze or shutdown? Hi friends, welcome back. Here we are just over a week into the new year, and most of us are really thinking about our goals. Some of us are feeling very motivated to take action towards these goals and to write them out and to make a plan. But some of us are feeling this lack of motivation. And so that's what I really want to speak to today, this question of why am I not feeling motivated? And this is way more common than you might think. This feeling of I have ideas and I have some goals in my mind. I can't get myself to do it. I can't find the motivation to get up off the couch after work or, to really start taking the first steps towards some of these ideas and goals that I have. And so let's talk about that today, right? We're still at the beginning of the new year and you might be, really wanting to start taking some action, but something's holding you back. So, I often talk about the different layers of our brain, or the different, almost like the different command centers of the brain. So we have, our thinking brain, which is up in our cortex. It's this very intellectual part of our brain where we have all our thoughts. And most of the time it's from this place that we think about goals and that we, have the urge to do something about a goal, right? And then we have the emotional center of the brain. And this is something that we have less immediate control over, right? We can't control it the way that we control our thoughts. Our feelings are there, almost like the soundtrack of what's happening. And when our emotional center, or this limbic system, is not on board with going after a goal, this is where we can already start to feel this disconnect, right? From, I think I want this, but I can't get myself to do it. And then we have our more of our instinctive center of our brain, which is that brainstem and our nervous system. And so when our nervous system is dysregulated, or we're living most of our life in this fight or flight or freeze state where we don't feel calm and centered and really like we're in a place that we can go after a big goal. We're kind of more in a survival state. And so we have these three different command centers that all have to get on board with going after a goal. Everything has to line up for us to think of the goal, feel motivated to do it, and then actually do it. Right? And so it's a more complicated process than most of us realize. And I think that so often we can feel down on ourselves when we do have goals, or we do have ideas, or maybe we see other people in our life pursuing goals that we just don't feel like doing it. And it's, I think the instinct is to just feel bad, or maybe to feel shame that, like, man, I'm not a go-getter like that, or I can't get myself to do that. And hopefully starting to understand there's a lot more going on than just coming up with an idea and doing it, right? There's all these different things that need to line up. And so let's first talk about getting that regulation in your nervous system. So one of the first questions to ask yourself when you're struggling with not feeling motivated is, am I regulated? Right? Do I have regulation in my nervous system? Or am I experiencing anxiety, which is like this survival energy, this fight or flight energy? Does my nervous system feel safe in my day-to-day life? And it's really easy to get to a place where we have physical anxiety, or we have just the feeling of physical shutdown as a response to just modern life. And so you're definitely not alone if you're realizing like, oh, maybe my system's dysregulated, and maybe that's kind of part of why I'm not able to find motivation right now. And so one of the ways to find regulation in your system and to really teach your body and teach this, instinctive command center, this nervous system command center of the brain, how to relax, is to ground yourself in the present moment and in your physical body. It's one of those things that is so simple. And we actually talked about it. I highly recommend that you go back and watch that, and you'll see how we ground and orient, and how this is really allowing our system to feel a sense of calm, to feel a sense of security. And so it's as simple as, wherever you are, pushing your heels into the ground and really just noticing like, oh, okay, like putting your awareness on the bottoms of your feet and on how stable the ground is under you, right? And what are we doing? We're really pulling our awareness out of our thoughts and our emotions, which can get very out of control and can feel overwhelming. And we're bringing ourselves to this present moment and to this physical body, right? And this allows our nervous system to make contact with the present moment and to realize that in this moment, I'm safe, right? In this moment, I can notice how stable the ground is, or I can notice how gravity is working to keep me on this chair. And so finding that regulation in your system so that you can feel, your nervous system can feel calm and safe most of the time, right? When it's appropriate to feel calm and safe and present. That's going to set the foundation that will allow you to start feeling motivation in a powerful way, in a way that you can follow. Another way to really ensure that your system has consistent regulation, right, that you're staying on top of it, is to build in self-care throughout your day, right? Just as part of your lifestyle, it's taking care of your physical body and giving yourself, moments of time when you're very present to right where you are. And that's easier said than done in today's world where we have, technology at our fingertips, and we have, all of these responsibilities and these big ideas that we're working on and emotions. And it's easy to find our awareness far from the present moment, right? We're either in the emails or online or thinking about a problem versus being physically where we are right now and allowing our system to feel the safety of the present moment. Okay, so once you have found regulation in your system and you've put a lifestyle into place where you're allowing yourself to feel safe and calm throughout your day so that you're training your nervous system to stay regulated, the next thing is to really work from that emotional center of the brain. And so from here, we might be working with a fear of failure. Could be a fear of success, right? Could be a sense of low self-confidence. Could be a habit of procrastination and maybe like feeling a little bit addicted to that procrastination feeling, when the pressure starts to build up and you kind of get a little bit of adrenaline, like, oh my gosh, this is last minute, I got to do it, right? That feeling can be kind of addictive. And then also just the habit of avoidance, right? Also that feeling of like the little voice pops up and says, I should do this, but then you push it away, right? You avoid it, you distract yourself. And so, once we've got this regulation going, our nervous system is good to go. Now we got to get our limbic system, that emotional center of our brain, on board. And so first, we really need to identify what is going on emotionally for you when it comes to not having this motivation, right? And so this is going to take some introspection on your part to really think about it, right? Think about this goal that you have, this thing that you want to be motivated for, but you're not. Let's just say it's losing weight. Let's say in this new year, you want to lose the excess weight so that you can be healthier and that you can just feel good, right? Maybe you have a sense that like my physical shape is holding me back from living just this brighter version of myself. And so maybe in your head, I really want to get in shape. And so we've worked to find this regulation in your nervous system, but you're still not feeling the motivation. And so really identifying where you are emotionally and trying to figure out if it's a fear of failure or if it's a fear of success, right? So using visualization is really important in this step. And so visualization can do so much because if you spend time in the theater of your mind, imagining yourself with that slimmed down body, right? With that, brighter version of yourself with more energy and more confidence, and you really take some time to get to know this version of yourself in your mind, it's going to do a couple of things. One, it's probably going to bring up the emotional hang-up, right? It's going to bring up whether it be, I'm just afraid to succeed, or it's going to bring up a negative self-belief that's keeping you from achieving this or from even going after this version of yourself. And so on the one hand, you're really kind of investigating what's going on. On the other hand, what you're doing is you're giving your nervous system this experience of achieving what you want. And we've talked about this before, but when we have these imaginative experiences for our nervous system, there's no distinction between really achieving your goal and vividly imagining achieving your goal. And so this is why there's so much power in imagining things, because we're building these new neural pathways of success in our brains when we imagine the outcome that we want, right? And if this subject interests you, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, he did all of the groundbreaking study of all of this back in the day and figured this out and coined the term theater of the mind. But there's so much science behind how much we can get out of really imagining with detail the outcome that we want. And so while you're doing this, you're learning some things about the emotional hangups. Potentially, they're going to kind of come up, and you're building a pathway to making this a reality by practicing in your mind. So it's really cool science. But if in this stage, if you are coming up with these negative self-beliefs, or you're coming up with these really emotional blocks to getting what you want, this is where I would recommend going and doing some EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. It's a form of therapy that can be rather short if you go in knowing, hey, this is a negative self-belief that is really just stuck in my limbic system, and I really want to flush it out because it's keeping me stuck. It's keeping me from feeling the motivation that I need to actually get up off the couch to go achieve this big life goal. And so this is where, going to see a therapist who's trained in EMDR is a really good move that can help you just push through this stage. So if you're like, hey, I'm regulated emotionally, I've got everything lined up, I'm not afraid of failure, I'm not afraid of success, I don't have some negative self-beliefs holding me back, then from here, it's really about creating the very clear goal, right? We want to know where we're headed so that we can get there. And if you're doing the visualization, it's impossible to really effectively visualize without knowing crystal clear what your goal is, because it's what you're visualizing, right? And so having this very clear goal and then making it as real as possible for you, whatever that looks like for you. I love to write, so I'm always writing things in detail, and that's a lot of how I will flesh out goals for myself, and then just taking it to the theater of the mind and allowing it to take on life in my imagination. So the final thing that I would say could be holding you back from feeling motivated is some limiting self-beliefs that are based on how you were raised or based on how you were taught, or just your brain has just come up with it, maybe based on seeing different people in your life who maybe have tried and didn't succeed, right? Sometimes it can be a really powerful negative example for us when we have maybe a parent who never pursued their goals and never really lived their passion. And so, as we're young, we might kind of absorb this idea that like, that's the way life is. Like you get a job and you put in your time at the job and you don't go after your dreams, right? Like there's different things that we can kind of absorb. But once you can identify like, oh, this is that negative self-belief that's kind of holding me back. One of the really effective ways to chip away at this is through positive affirmations, right? We need to shift what we think is possible. And so putting positive ideas in your head, again, nothing when it comes to positive affirmations, it's never about lying to yourself. It's never about saying like, I am XYZ when you're not that yet. It's about saying like, I'm open to changing my beliefs. Positive affirmations should be something that is true and authentic and is opening you up to the change and the growth that you really desire. And so once you figure out what your limiting self-beliefs are, spending time every day with positive affirmations and then exposing yourself to stories and contact with people who have overcome those limiting self-beliefs, right? If you think that if you only have a high school education and you can't create a business and become a millionaire, go talk to people who have, because they're out there. Find examples, and today with the internet, there's examples of success stories everywhere. And so figuring out what this limiting self-belief is, and then just introducing new information to that thinking part of your brain to really challenge what you've thought in the past. All right, I hope this has been helpful for you as you're really trying to figure out, like, why don't I feel motivated, right? So we're going to get regulated in our body by really keeping contact with the present moment, allowing our system to feel safe and secure and calm. We're going to work through any limiting emotional beliefs, right? Any fears of failure or any negative self-beliefs that we're carrying emotionally, creating a very clear goal, and then really pushing through limiting self-beliefs, right? Just these ideas that we have of limits in this world, and just really shedding all of those restrictions and limits, and really truly opening ourselves to the possibility for growth and success and for change, right? Positive change in our life. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for watching. Drop me a comment. Let me know, like, what are you motivated for this year? What are you going after this year? Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will be back next week with another message.